What's up, guys? Welcome back. So today what we're going to get started on is more or less I'm going to go ahead and kind of razor blade the stickers off the side, and then go ahead. I've already got the rear tail lights removed. I'll remove the fronts and go ahead and kind of sand this thing down with 400 grit, and we'll get to masking it off, so stay tuned. Okay, so I actually went with the factory blue. I actually really like the Ford blues, so I got this mixed with hardener and stuff. Waiting on my air compressor to come down to the necessary PSI, and then I'm gonna shoot this thing. So I'm just gonna do it right here in the driveway. More or less, I sanded it with 400 grit, wiped it down, and just gonna shoot it. See what happens. So either way, I think it'll look better than mismatching. So let's do it. Okay, so I kind of feel like a jackass after this, but anyway, small mistake. When I set my compressor regulator, I guess I didn't take it. I did, because I removed the hose when I set the regulator the first time, and then I think I went back and kind of adjusted it and didn't do that. So more or less, I thought, I was set at like 40 psi, which is the max for that gun, and really I was running 0 psi. So the whole time, this thing's barely kind of spraying, and I'm just over here blaming it on the cheap Harbor Freight gun I got. I've done a lot of painting with spray cans, and pretty decent with them, and I'm like, wait, this just isn't the same. I've never sprayed with a spray gun, so I kind of just blame it on everything but me. Sitting there adjusting settings. But anyway, long story short, I made 2 rounds around the car, and it just wasn't covering before I checked that. So pretty short, the paint seems to match pretty decent, honestly. Like, it's obviously not even fully covered, but that's because of the issue I had. So I kind of just used what I had left that I already had hardener in and finished spraying on the car, mainly because at the end of the day, like, it's got to be covered anyway, and I didn't want the paint to go to waste. But what I'm gonna have to do now is tomorrow I'm gonna wet sand this thing down smooth and then respray it. But I am pretty hopeful now, like, kind of now that I got everything situated, that it should turn out pretty decent, because like the color match seems to be really good, at least good enough for what I need. And kind of spent most of the day today, not most of the day, but the last half of the day kind of playing around with the settings on the gun and getting it spraying pretty decent, kind of just using the car. The downside of that is yeah, I am gonna have to wet sand, or wet sand this. But I mean it only took me like an hour and a half to get it sanded down today, because it didn't really need any body work. The few little spots it has, I mean, like the main spots, this ding right here from where I was pushing the cage and it hit that. And originally I was going to replace the roof panel, but I kind of ruined my good one. But that's not bad enough for me to do anything with, in my opinion. So yeah, tomorrow I'll kind of get this thing wet sanded down and remix some paint and spray it again. But now, like, I really feel comfortable as far as, like, I kind of got the hang of what I need to make this a decent looking car. Worst case, I got to wet sand and buff it, but I really don't think I'm going to do that unless it's just terrible. Mainly because I just don't want to put the time in it. So yeah, I'll talk to you guys tomorrow, and hopefully we'll have this thing done and painted tomorrow. Okay, so I just got done doing my first pass, and I did this with 400 grit, and I may do another with 400 just because some of this stuff is a little thick, but it's smoothed out a great deal. And I also have some 600, so I was going to do kind of a pass or two with a 4 and then 6, because see where some of this is a little bit thicker in here. Now, however, this side I did spend more time on, and it was mostly just by hand, and it's kind of smoothed down real well. Also, the reason too is I'm removing these windows, so I didn't bother taping them off. I'm also going to remove the trim because it is, a race car. There is some overspray on that, but that'll come off. This spoiler, I mean, I know some people are, oh, you need to remove all that. Well, every one of these screws is spinning in the spoiler when I try to remove them, and I kind of just made an executive decision to leave it on there. I'm just going to spray in there best I can. That's just kind of like is what it is. I'd rather have the spoiler and it look pretty decent than remove it and not be able to get it back on, and I'm not buying another spoiler. So that is why I left that on, so don't roast me too bad. Of course, I didn't cover the wheels, but this kind of like sand overspray, it comes off. Also, I was gonna shoot a video with these tires, so those tires will probably be roasted anyways. So, just some little things like that. I probably, you could say I got a little lazy with it, but kind of like my main goal with this is I just want the body to look pretty decent. So I am gonna try and make the paint look the best I can, and some of the little things, kind of like the trim, it's gonna come off anyway. The spoiler is really gonna be the only spot I think that's not gonna be just 100% like something I'm happy with, and that's mainly because I can't remove it. I probably could, but again, then I risk not being able to reinstall it, because if whatever the studs are held into the spoiler with, if I spin it to the point or rip it out, I may not be able to get it back in. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave it as it is and hope for the best. So go ahead and kind of get the sanding on it. I'm probably not going to video that because it's just sanding down a car. So talk to you guys later. Okay, so I've made a couple passes around it, you know, kind of getting it sanded back down, and honestly it probably could even use a little bit more, but in this heat I am over it. So I'm just going to go ahead and spray it. This is acrylic enamel, so it's pretty thick. I'm actually not thinning it. The gun sprays it pretty decent. So and honestly, I just kind of took that advice from the people from the paint store. Maybe bad advice, but either way, it should cover, you know, some of this stuff that's not quite as smooth as I would want it. There's also the fact of, I know I said I wasn't going to wet sand it, but I do want it to look okay. So I kind of foresee myself having to wet sand part of this car, you know, with like 1,000, 1,500, whatever, higher grit sandpaper anyways. To get it how I'm going to want it, I think. Because again, I'm sure I'll have, you know, a couple spots in there where like I got the gun too close or something. So with that in mind, I figured, you know, it's just a matter of doing it. So like my goal today is to go ahead and get it sprayed. That way it can kind of sit out in the sun and sit overnight, etc. That'll probably be one of the last things I do. Once I get it sprayed, I do still got to spray the front bumper. I'm looking to basically kind of button up all the small stuff, the harnesses, a couple more places to weld, and do like one bar in the front. So yeah, let's get set up and get this thing sprayed. Okay, so it's the next day. This was PPG paint. The force dry time's 8 hours. The air dry 16 hours because it did have hardener. It's been in the sun all day yesterday, and then now today, which it's, even if it were air dry, it's over 16 hours. So I just went ahead and kind of wiped it down and sprayed it. Just, you know, maybe I could get any of the surface contaminants that were in it out. It's a little bit duller than I wanted, and that may just be me, or it could just be, you know, a side effect of single stage. So I did go ahead and pick up the stuff to go ahead and polish it out. I'm not going to wet sand it or anything, as long as it just kind of shines up a little bit. There's, you know, a couple little spots I wish were a little bit darker. To be fair, I did ask the lady for a gallon, and she told me 3 quarts would cover a Mustang. So, and it may have, you know, if I didn't the first day mess up spraying it. But generally I like to have a little extra to be safe. So in the future, I'll just buy like an entire gallon. If I got some extra left over, so what? But I mean, overall, like it's pretty decent. Not too many dark or light spots, you know. There's 1 or 2 I could see that I could have sprayed a little deeper. And assuming, you know, I had more paint, I would have. So yeah, let's get this thing buffed up. I'm gonna let it dry. We'll get it buffed up and kind of maybe do a, you know, walk around, and let's see how decent or bad it is. So see you guys later. Okay, so day 3 maybe. Anyways, I kind of figured out what I did wrong is I sprayed it a little too dry. It wasn't wet enough, so once it dried, it was just a little duller than I wanted. And I did go and you know, buff it, and some of it buffed out. But then of course some spots, you know, I could see the paint below. So I don't think I originally had enough paint, and I didn't spray it wet enough. So today I went and got 2 more quarts. I actually ran into an old timer down at the paint store, and he gave me a couple pointers. First off, I guess, yeah, I should have thinned it, even though the gun sprayed it pretty decent. It apparently that helps the paint lay out. Also, I probably sprayed it when it was too hot. He told me to kind of wait till it was about 75 degrees and give the paint time to lay, you know, spread out as well. So I think what I did is I did just sand it all back down, wet sand it all back down with 400 grit. And kind of starting where we're at now, we do at least have a base color. Like I said, I already knew that I didn't spray it wet enough, so you know that's going to be something I changed this time. And I was thinking about waiting to spray it in the morning, but it's already Friday, and I really wanted to make a video of this car like Sunday at the latest. So I'm considering parking it under my, you know, in my garage until this evening, and maybe just wait until the car itself is about 70-75 degrees, then roll it out here and spray it. That way it can sit overnight. But yeah, either way, I'll kind of update you guys. I'm pretty sure either way, how this turns out is how I'm going to leave it, because at this point I've spent probably $1,000 more than I wanted to on this car, especially with it having salvage title. I think it's going to be a hard sell either way. But yeah, I got to learn a lot. I'm also pretty bad about just jumping head first into stuff. I learn better that way. So versus, I mean, you sit on YouTube all day and listen to 100 different people tell you what to do, but until you get out there and do it, you don't necessarily get the feel for what's what. So, which is kind of, again, why, yeah, I created more work for myself, but you learn a lot faster that way. So yeah, hopefully this next iteration turns out at least decent enough, you know, that I'm happy with it. But we'll see. Stay tuned. Alright, so for the most part, the car is pretty much done. Really, the only thing I need to do is put the passenger side harness in here and kind of wipe the interior down and probably mount that switch panel. Everything else is pretty well finished. I wiped it down with some like quick wax, some chemical guys like quick wax. It shined it up pretty decent. Not bad to be painted in my driveway, and for the first time, you know, I've ever painted something. I did forget to put the hood pins in once when I drove it down the road, and the hood blew off, so I did have to repaint the hood, which that kind of sucked. Also had to fix the hinges because they just slapped broke in half. But yeah, I just kind of got that beater set of wheels on the back because I didn't want to ruin my brand new Kendas, because if I do take it, I don't know if I'm going to take it to the track or the mountain yet, but either way, I got a brand new set of Kendas. I did make an adjustment in the top link in the rear, more or less just, you know, moved it pretty, it's basically sitting level, but then under compression it has just a little bit, whereas before it was kind of like that. Just removed a lot of the anti-squat, trying to put a little bit more side than forward in it, because I would rather, especially if I'm going to take it to the mountain, I'd rather have a lot more predictable car. But yeah, it feels pretty good. Just kind of running it down the road here and sliding it in the driveway. I'm pretty happy with it. It's basically, if I were building a car, you know, an S197 for me, it's pretty much everything I would do. Now, but of course, this was kind of like the first car I ever did this much fabrication on. So, of course, you know, hindsight's always 20/20. There's probably a couple things I would change, but overall, it feels super solid, and I'm happy with it. So this will probably be like the final video of doing anything on the car, which was mainly just getting it painted and stuff. And the plans are to do one more, actually getting some footage sliding the car, and after that we'll get back on the 70. So thanks for watching. See you guys later.